gentlemen, to an all-new reaction and review. Tonight, guys, we're checking out a horror comedy from 1983. That movie is Microwave Massacre. Now, funny story about Microwave Massacre. There's a reason why I put the movie on the Amazon wish list, and the reason is the title. I saw the title Microwave Massacre and said, dude, that sounds fucking awesome. I have got to see this thing. So I put it on the Amazon wish list and hoped that somebody would send it in. Lucky me, somebody did. And I still, when I put it on the wish list, had no clue what the hell the plot was. I never bothered to read the back of the Blu-ray case. I barely knew that it was a horror, comedy until I watched the trailer. The trailer is fucking hilarious. It really doesn't explain much of the plot, but I am fascinated, and I'm really curious about this thing, guys. I kind of have hopes. I have hopes that this thing is going to be fun. Mind you, the trailer also went out of its way, rather, to say that this is the worst movie of all time. I am going to call bullshit right now, because after watching the trailer, I know this isn't the worst movie of all time. I've seen vastly worse than what I saw in that trailer. Now that could easily change as I watch the movie if the writing is awful or, everything else falls into place. This thing could very well be a massive turd. I don't think it's going to hit the worst movie of all time status that the trailer outright states. I'm certainly hoping for it to be halfway decent, and the only way I'm going to find out is if I shut up and I push play. And I'm going to do that right now. So, without further ado, it's time to kick back, relax, and check out Microwave Massacre. Well, guys, I can say this much so far. The acting is pretty bad. And by pretty bad, I mean, oh my god, this acting's fucking terrible. But the actual writing is pretty frickin' decent, and I'm actually kind of enjoying the jokes. I just wish that they were, I guess, executed better, because the bad acting is really kind of hindering this slightly. Guys, out of all the characters I've seen in this movie, my favorite, by far favorite, has got to be Sam, the bartender, because he owns a bar/strip fucking club, and he's completely just sick and tired of people coming into his bar and whinging about all their personal fucking problems, so he essentially tells everybody to shut up. He's sick and tired of hearing it. I love that shit. I think it's actually kind of sort of charming. Just a fucking bartender who just gives up on all of his patrons. He doesn't care anymore. I love it. It's fucking creative. It's awesome. It's really cool, man. Hell yeah. Guys, there is something about the model of Donald's wife's severed head that just looks incredibly creepy. I honestly don't know if it's the face on the head. I don't know if it's the weird yellowish color that the skin has taken. I don't know what it is. There's something about that severed head that looks really fucking creepy, and I can't put my finger on it, man. Well, guys, that was Microwave Massacre, and, wow, that was something. Let's, shut that off. Okay. Let's, wow, that ending was really fucking shit. I'm sorry, guys. That was horrible. Alright, so why don't we, try to touch on the movie. Well, let's start with the writing. The plot to this thing is, it actually is a fascinating plot, and there is a problem with the movie in regards to the plot, and it's that it starts off really fascinating, but then the movie doesn't know where to go with it. You see, the movie is about a man named Donald, whose wife is trying to become more cultured, and she fills the house with tons of, tacky fucking looking things, which she thinks are cultured and sophisticated, and she refuses to make common food like steak or bologna sandwiches, because Donald, that's a thing, he really wants a bologna and cheese sandwich. She's making all these, delicacies and foreign food, and it all looks disgusting. Donald can't stand it. He finally breaks down and he kills her shortly after she buys this gigantic fuck-off microwave, which, to be fair, back in 1983, microwaves were frickin' massive. So, I'm talking massive in size. Like, this thing's like, it's literally like this frickin' big. It's huge. So, he kills her, he chops her up, he's going to hide her body parts in the fridge in the friggin' garage. He wraps all of it in tinfoil, as was all the meat that was in there in the first place, because you see his wife May, she bought tons of weird, like, foreign meat and shit, and was keeping it all in the fridge. And one wrapped hand of May's kind of falls into this garbage can full of meat. One night, Donald, I don't know where this judgment came from, but, you know, this meat that's been sitting in this garbage can all frickin' day, he decides to just pull out a bit, crack her open, and eat it, and finds out that he grabbed her hand. So now he's willing to cook her meat, and now he starts hunting and killing women, because not only is he eating it, but his co-workers also like the taste of the mystery meat that Donald is bringing to work with him. That sounds really fascinating. And that's really cool for like the first half of the film. And then it goes south. Then nothing happens. You know, it basically then boils friggin' down to Donald finds a local friggin' skank, brings them home, fucks them, kills them, chops them up, cooks them up, serves them to his co-workers and to himself. And that would probably be really fascinating, but the movie gets really lazy, and eventually you don't care about any of the victims. In fact, actually, you just find bits where he's just cutting up another, victim. There was no build-up, there was no setup, there was no nothing. Or you just see him, like, run a friggin' knife down a woman's, like torso. There's no reason to care, because the movie's like, yeah, and he kills more people, because reasons. And it comes off feeling really cheap. It would have been great if we could have gotten some kind of build-up, some kind of character arc involving Donald as he's, attempting to avoid the cops, or just something involving the cops, maybe slowly figuring out that all of the killings are near Donald's neighborhood. The closest that we get is, I'm going to assume it was May's sister shows up, and Donald just ties her up and throws her in a fucking closet, and you'd never see her for the rest of the fucking... Well, she doesn't play any part in the movie after that, but he keeps her tied up because he doesn't want to kill her because he's so used to fucking them first, he doesn't want to fuck her. Just the plot feels like it just dies. Like, we have this awesome premise, it builds up, gets really good, and then at about the halfway point, the movie just drops. And this, guys, is a short movie. This thing's only like an hour and 16 minutes. So we're talking like the first 40 minutes or so were great. It was funny, it was witty, it was quick, and then it just bottoms out because they don't know where to go. And the ending, oh, good God, that ending. About the halfway point is also where they add in a subplot where Donald has a pacemaker. This was never made clear until he's chopping up a victim and suddenly he has chest pains. The pacemaker plays into the ending of the movie, and it's such a cop-out ending. And in fact, I'm gonna tell you guys right now, it literally borders on having no fucking ending, because there is no closure. There's nothing there. It's a terrible ending, and it really is just sort of the cherry on top of the absolutely abysmally terrible second half of this film. I could probably go on even more, but really, guys, the fucking writing here was that poor. And once more, it started off so good. The characters were so interesting. I mentioned Sam, the bar fucking tender. The moment I mentioned him, he stopped showing up because Donald stopped going to the fucking bar. So now the most interesting character just vanishes because they stopped going there. And Donald is a fascinating character as it is. I mean, he is this kind of likable, nebbish, weirdo who's gotten into cannibalism because he kind of fell dick fucking first in fucking to it. But Still, the writing here is such a letdown. This thing had so much promise, and it pissed all of it the fuck away. That's a pretty bad thing. Now, the acting, or rather the writing, it could have easily been fixed if you'd have gotten somebody who knew how to do something in order to close this thing out and close it out properly, or to add some kind of tension, because there is no tension either. That is also a problem. Is they build up the fact that Donald is killing all these people, and then they never add tension to it. No one ever comes close to figuring out what he's doing. The one person who does, he ties up, gags, and throws in a closet. Thus there is no tension or threat there. That right there is my big issue, guys. Is just that the writing started off really strong. It got really shit in the second half. And that's a huge that is a huge letdown for me, because once more, the trailer was really good. The first half of this thing was really good, and then just bottomed out. That fucking sucked ass. Now, where the writing at least started off promising, that is more than I could say about the acting. The acting from everybody here is wooden and lifeless and rather shit. Now, under most circumstances, that would actually be a bad thing. Normally, bad acting leads to a bad movie watching experience. But for some reason, the lifeless wooden acting in this movie almost seems to add a likable charm to the film itself. Because really, guys, a plot which is this odd, and again, the first half of the script being as promising as it frickin' is, it almost seems to be like enhanced by the fact that the actors all kind of suck, and it makes the whole thing kind of charming. Unfortunately, again, we then fall into that second half where the writing bottoms out, and when you have bad writing and bad acting, it just turns to shit. So, again, we had something that started off decent, because, again, shit acting and decent fucking writing, it can at times become charming. It was certainly charming here. And then the writing ruins that, and thus, I have to say that the acting was shit, and it does not hold up throughout the course of the film. I really am trying to think if there was anybody who was particularly bad, but no. Everybody's acting was basically on the same level of wooden, dead, and lifeless, and once more, it started off fine, and then by the end, it became almost grating. So we have that. Special effects. Here is one point where I'm going to praise this thing. Special effects for 1983 were really friggin' decent. We have tons and tons of body parts and blood and all of that, and it all looks fine, barring very few things. I mentioned May's severed head, which was an odd shade of yellow as you see it throughout the movie, because Donald keeps the severed head in the fucking fridge. I don't know why he decides to keep, the head. Perhaps, honestly, he was trying to figure out the best way to carve off face meat. I don't know. I really have no idea. Anyway, that head looked kind of weird. One of his victims, when he saws off her foot and he puts it on like cutting board, the foot is this disturbing shade of fucking gray. A whole lot of other limbs, at least, are naturally colored, and then there's that gray foot and May's yellow severed head. Both of those look terrible, but everything else in terms of severed body parts looks awesome. It really does. It looks incredibly realistic, which says a lot considering the fact that this movie, I'm going to assume, was made on a budget of almost nothing. It kind of shows. So yeah, guys, special effects, barring two fucking props, is really solid. So yeah, I mean, again, now considering the fact that we're talking about a horror comedy from 1985 with almost no fucking budget, it makes sense for the special effects to be at least decent, and we do have that here. In fact, the special effects are a fuckload better than I was honestly I was honestly expecting. So, good on you. You've got awesome special effects. Again, minus that foot and that head, but let's not dwell on that. Music in this movie is pretty solid. It actually has this almost 70s-ish like disco sound to it, which again, it's just stupid and cheesy enough to work with this movie, and it adds a goofy charm again to that first half. And the music is probably one of the few constants alongside special effects and technicals. I'll get to technicals in a second, which stay good throughout the film. The score here is nothing special, but it certainly isn't awful. It's actually pretty good. So we have that, and that's certainly a plus. And now we get down to our technicals: camera work, lighting, sound mix. All of that is fine. All of that is functional. In fact, shit, a lot of that works out fucking great. And that right there is something that kind of threw me off, because when the trailer said that this was the worst movie ever made, first things I think of is they are gonna fucking screw over the technicals, and we're gonna have shots that are horrendously out of focus, or a sound mix which is horrible, or ADR which sucks. We have none of that here. In fact, I don't think there was any friggin' ADR done at all. I don't think anyone went in and redubbed dialogue. I really think it was all directly from the set, which works and is certainly good. Our sound mix here is fine. Our camera work is good. Our lighting is fine. Technically, this movie works on every single little fiddly technical level. This thing works, and it works fine. Unfortunately, you cannot win the day on mere technicals, and things such as writing and acting are certainly going to play a big part in this. And because the second half of this script suffers so badly, and the ending is just such a pointless waste, when all is said and done, am I able to recommend Microwave Massacre? Okay, let me just put it this way. If you can find it to rent, go for it. If you can find it on Amazon Instant Video, or Netflix or Hulu or something, where you get it for next to nothing, by all means check it out. As for buying, right here is where I get to discuss a studio, or not a studio, but a company that I don't get to talk about too often, and that is Arrow Video. Arrow Video, they pride themselves on putting out B fucking movies on Blu-ray. The problem is their prices are insane. I'm talking movies like this, low-end films like this are selling for anywhere from $18 to $25. And Arrow has certain movies which sell for $30. This thing here, I think, was about $19 when it was bought off of the Amazon wish list. That is far too much for a movie that is this poor, okay? To buy this thing, to buy it fucking new, no. If you can find a used copy for $7 or less, by all means, pick it up. And as a message to Arrow Video, please, for the love of God, fix your fucking pricing, alright? I own very few Arrow Video fucking leases, and that's because I found a sale on the Family Video website, and I was able to get Bride of Reanimator for $13. Amazon was trying to sell it at the time for $40. Okay, that movie is not worth $40 under any fucking circumstance, but Arrow Video apparently thinks so. I understand, guys, that this has nothing to do directly with this movie, but I'm telling you right now, to buy this thing new at the price which Arrow Video wants it to be bought for is a fucking insult, and I would not buy it new under any circumstance. I would totally buy it used, provided that it's incredibly cheap, and I'm talking less than $10, because this thing is not worth a penny higher than that. Once more, if you can find it for free, if this thing is on Amazon, or Netflix, or Shudder, or Hulu, or any of the other video, streaming services, check it out. I mean, it's short, it's painless, and it's not going to cost you anything. But to actually buy this thing, I would have to say no. Just straight out no, unless you find it incredibly cheap, and that probably will not happen. Anyway, that is going to do it for the... Oh, wait, the shout-out. I completely blanked on the shout-out. Microwave Massacre came off the Amazon wishlist. The person who sent it in was Daniel from New Zealand. I really wish I had more details than, that, but that honestly is all he's given me, is that his name is Daniel, and he is from New Zealand. And Daniel, thank you, dude. I was really curious about this thing, again, based totally on the title. I wanted to watch this thing because of the title. And again, the first half was really fascinating, but then the second half kind of suffered, and I wouldn't have known that if you hadn't sent that in, and for that I thank you. You're fucking awesome. Again, Daniel, I thank you. You're freaking amazing, and if you had given me, like, a YouTube link, or a Facebook page, or a Twitter account, something like that, I would totally have given you a shout-out here, and I know you've sent in, like, I think, like, 4 other movies, and if you want... message me and I will, or rather, if you want a shout out, message me and I will make sure to give you a proper shout out when I cover the other movies that you have sent me. Now, I was actually kind of sort of reminded of something, because there was another movie I covered in this series which kind of sort of hit the same problem this thing did. Started off really good for the first half and then went to shit in the second. And that movie was Rubber. I'm almost tempted to go and find a copy of Rubber somewhere and give it a second watch. Well, give the first half a second watch, because the movie's fucking trash after that. But realistically, I'm probably just going to dig around in my Blu-ray collection and find something to watch. I don't know. Ooh, I don't think I've watched that yet. Or rather, I haven't watched my Blu-ray copy of that yet. I just noticed I have the Garbage Pail Kids movie on Blu-ray, and I've had it there for a long time. I don't think I've watched that yet. At least not my Blu-ray copy. The movie actually is kind of decent. I'm gonna go and watch that, because that just caught my fucking eye. I am actually kind of excited. It's been about 8 years since I last saw that movie, so I'm gonna go and watch that. And with that, my friends, we come to the close of another reaction and review. Until next time, ladies and gentlemen, take care, and I will see you all in the near future. Peace.